Hi everyone, welcome back to Locs Life. Today I have a video. It's going to be about repairing locks. So along your locks journey, you'll probably encounter locks that just break off or start thinning. So it can be kind of, exasperating at that point. It's like you want to keep your locks an even length and then you just have one that's just for some reason thinning. So there's a lot of reasons for thinning of locks. You can go check out my blog. I'll link in some articles as to why your locks are thinning. But here, really, we're just going to get into how to repair a lock. So I have here a lock that has unfortunately broken off. It was causing me so much distress, I can't lie. It was just, so here's a lock that it fell off from. So it was like this. The unevenness of it was killing me. And then one day it just kind of like whoop, fell off. And so, like I said, there's a lot of reasons for why locks will thin. And what happened in this case was just like how I was locking it. So when I was locking the hair, I do interlocking. I just kind of was accidentally not taking in enough portions of the hair beside it. So you can even see here, I have like some like extra hair at the side. So I don't lock every single portion of my hair. So, but what had happened is that, as when you're locking your hair, you get like little strays and flyaways, and those can add up. So I wasn't re-adding the pieces that had kind of fallen out. And instead, the lock just like ended up thinning, and I was just interlocking a smaller and smaller portion. And by the time I realized it, I was like, oh wait, hey, this lock is actually kind of too thin. So you can see the lock was thicker here, and then it was like sort of thinner here. And that was me, like I accidentally was like locking too small of a portion. It was a combination of that, and I did pick out some pieces. So that was also my fault. You get those little white loop bulbs, and I had sort of just like been picking it out, which thinned the lock. Instead, really what you should do is either kind of leave them and dye them, or you should just sort of like cut the white little root bulbs out instead of pulling the whole hair out. Because if you pull the whole hair out, then the lock starts to sort of thin. And so the combination of that is really what caused this lock to thin. But yeah, so let's get into fixing, repairing the lock. I have done it a few times, and this method, I'm not gonna lie, is a little, I'm not gonna say raggedy, but it is not super professional. It's just kind of what I do by myself to repair a lock when I don't want it to be super uneven. And I've done it before. You can see this one I repaired, got a little lint in it. Let's just get rid of that. This one I repaired. I like this was all like the normal, how it's been. And like these ones I kind of added hair to sort of like thicken it up a little bit, because it was exactly like this one, except it hadn't broken, but it was exactly like this one in terms of how like super thin it was getting. So let's get into repairing this lock. So for repairing a lock, if it's hasn't fallen out, of course you're just going to be kind of fixing the thinning portion and adding hair. But in this case, we're actually going to be reattaching the lock and fixing this thinning portion here. So we're going to do both of these at the same time. So for this one, I've definitely done some type of repair here too. It's like a little thicker right here, and I don't want to recombine that. So actually what I'm going to do is cut this little piece here. It's just too thick, and it's just gonna end up being like super like if I braid over it, it's just gonna be kind of like a bump. No, it won't be as smooth. So I'm just gonna get rid of that. And now I have this. This is like the lock I'm going to add back on there. So I'm just kind of fluffing the pieces a little bit for where I'm gonna add it. And also, like how I add the lock in is I braid over it. So I do like a combination of braiding, and I have like a little crochet hook, which is somewhere not really here right now. So I'm really just going to be braiding it. which is fine. I've done that for a couple of locks, like only braiding it in. But yeah, I'm gonna add it back on. All right, so if you have your portion you're going to add back on, and then you have the end of your lock. So really what else you need now is extra hair. How I lock my hair, like I said, I don't lock all of it. I have some pieces that I don't lock, and it's like, you know, most is going to be the ones that are like kind of closest to crown area, that are more sensitive, and I just don't want there to be as much tension on it, so I just don't lock it. Some of it, it's like, you know, it was initially locked when I first started my journey, but then kind of came out, and then I just sort of left it. And I can tell too, like the hair is a bit thinner there, just like always been. Like, you know, your hair has different density, and this one is like not as dense. So I just sort of leave it. I don't want any stress on it, and I don't want just trying to prevent any type of like alopecia or something like that. So I just sort of leave it. I let it grow, and then just so it's not kind of combining itself with other locks, what I do is I just twist it and braid it down. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take it out, and I am going to do some lock hair. I'm going to do some hair harvesting for my lock, for my Frankenstein lock. That's kind of that's what I call them. I'm just going to brush it out with my fingers. Okay, so I got different lengths in here. So like this part is just happens to be much longer. How I'm going to combine it is I'm going to do an overlap. Just a slight overlap between this portion of my lock and here to sort of combine it. Okay, and by the way, you should probably use sharper scissors. Don't do as I'm doing right now. I just picked up the first set of scissors I found because I was feeling lazy. And this is also sort of dangerous if you're cutting. You don't want to accidentally cut off a lock, so you'll probably want to do that in front of a mirror. But yeah. So now I have the hair, and what I'm going to do is just layer it here and just sort of look to see how I want to, at what places I want to braid it together and how much hair I want to use. So I think I want to do braid over it twice. So I'm not going to make this one super thick. What I do too, this is how I do it. Like I said, I am not a professional. I only have 2 hands, and I need you need to have some sort of traction on it. For this, I'm going to wrap it around a little bit, and I'm going to use my mouth to give a little bit of traction. Okay, and now it's combined. I now have 1 lock again.
Hey everyone, so my video wasn't very clear as to how it looked when I was attaching it to my hair. So what I have here is just sort of a representation of what I was actually doing in the video. So I've created a fake lock and a fake broken lock. And so what I've done here is, like, the top is, you know, my head, and this is the lock. You can see here it's like a thinning portion, and this is what I want to reattach, and this is gonna like be the reattachment here. So what I'm gonna do is first cut a piece here, and this is gonna be the reattachment. And so what I did really, and seeing this is like kind of how my hair was too, kind of had like a little stray flyaway there at the end that I'd fluffed out, and same here. And so I kind of matched it up together like that. And then I started a little bit above where the actual hair was, and had it this folded in half, and then just started braiding together. So now let's get that in there. And it's in here. So if it's when it's like your hair, all this end here, you can kind of wrap around, and with the texture of your hair, it should sort of stay more combined there. And so that was how I did the initial combination of it. And so I started first with the combining it, and then when I did the braiding over, to thicken this thin area, I braided a little bit over there, over this part of combine, which I'm going to show you right now.
And so yeah, that's like kind of how I would re-add a lock. And like I said, like you could see, I use like I put it in between my teeth just to be able to stabilize it and have leverage. If you find that to be gross or something like that, then go to professional or go look up some other video of how to do it. This is my very non-professional way of how recombine a lock, and also what I would do as well for, thickening it up. And so that's what I'm gonna do now too. So I used a shorter portion of hair to do that little re-adding. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna cut a longer section. And I was just cutting very carefully, making sure I didn't cut off my lock. So I'm gonna take this and sort of reattach it in the middle. I'm gonna start from here. This is the thinnest portion. And this I'm just gonna do in two. This portion here is the longest section of a thinning lock that I've had, where I'm gonna use in multiple pieces of hair in one sitting to be able to like recombine it. And it's like, because like I said too, I'm using my own hair. I didn't purchase anything, so I'm kind of limited to the length of what's available from my head. But for people who aren't using their own hair, you can definitely kind of purchase something online. And so what I did, there's like different ways you can do it. Since this portion is so long, like I said, I'm going to just kind of split it in two. But another way to do it is kind of fold it in half, which is kind of what I did here. But
part was when I was saying that I kind of kept it straight here, was that so here I'd folded it over like that and braided, but on this longer section, I kept it like, straight up and then just braided through without folding it over.
What I'm going to do here, like I said, I split this in two. And I'm going to leave this top part. And I'm just going to try and braid, use my teeth again. And just braiding down the length. And I'm going to take some of the stray hair here and re-add it to this portion of the braid. I just kind of throw it in there and start to braid down. And I wanted to braid down over the section that I reattached to enforce it more. So I'm braiding over that, but I'm okay. I'm at the end of the hair. I don't want this section to be too thick that I doubled up on, but I do want it to have some reinforcement. So yeah, so I've now I've reinforced this, and I've like thickened up this here. And so you can see here, I have like a little spare here. So what I'm going to do now is flip it over, this little section here, and I'm going to braid downwards. And it's definitely more difficult, so that's why I don't leave so much available at the top, just a little bit. I'm also going to try and just twist the rest, and then I can also use the interlocking tool too to sort of weave it in there some more. And so yeah, so now I have a reinforced lock. I could definitely go over it once more in this section, because this was the thinnest section of it. I'm gonna take a look and see how I feel about it. But I'm definitely happier with it being like super, super short and super, super thin. So I'm definitely happier about that. Here, so that is the combined lock. I have now created a Frankenstein lock. Like I said, here is another Frankenstein lock. And it's totally up to you if you feel like going through this process or not. This is just one way I know of to do it. Something with this method of using your own hair, especially if your locks are a few years old, is that the layer of your hair that's more exposed to the sun, it's going to turn a shade of brown or lighten up more. So when you're combining or fixing an old lock, the color is going to be different. So in this one, it's not as noticeable because it's like I've like kind of like braided it together. But especially if you're adding just like a lock at piece right at the end, and you're using new hair, it's going to kind of be more noticeable of the difference in the color, unless you like kind of dye it yourself, purchase like a lighter shade. But I don't really mind, so I just leave it. But yeah, so that's how you combine it. I will sort of take a look, see what it looks like when I turn off the camera. If I end up adding another, layer right here, using the crochet hook to sort of like tuck that in, I'll definitely like just post like the picture to see what it looked like at the end. But essentially this is it. Like you can see it's in there. But if it were to sort of come out, I can either, always braid it back over it again, or maybe at some point I just, let, what's that saying, let sleeping dogs lie or something. I'll just, if it wants to leave my lock, then maybe I'll let it go. But as of right now, I'm not ready. So I headed it back in and we're gonna go from there. But yeah, so that's it. I hope you enjoyed my Frankenstein lock tutorial. And if you didn't, that's also fine. Good luck for however you want to recombine it. And have a good day. I will see you in the next video. Thanks for stopping by. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. But yeah.